Well, welcome back to this video series that we're calling Embracing Your Kingdom Platform, How to Be a Leader That's Easy to Follow. In our first two sessions, we kind of set the biblical foundation for Jesus's way of life and way of ministry, that Jesus always calls disciples, but he sees leaders that he's going to send on mission. And we've tried in video one to call out the latent leadership potential within you as a leader and say that Jesus sees you as a leader. He sees not just who you are, but who you could be, who you will be. And we have tried to say that that's more than just simply being a volunteer at a church, but instead that there's a kingdom platform for you to stand on to lead where you live, work, and play, and to make disciples. Not to just simply, as your in component, invite and bring people to church, but to rather go and make. So in session two, you named the problem, and now we're going to get to starting to talk about the solution. We're working through the leadership star tool that we talked about earlier. And today we're going to start with this idea of vision. So to set this up, Shane, I want you to imagine that you have asked me this question. Hey, Dave, where are we going on vacation? And I answer that question with Toyota.
With Toyota.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have a car.
Right.
Right. I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense, does it? I mean, because when you ask where we're going for vacation, what you're wanting me to respond with is the beach, and not just the beach, but what's going to happen at the beach. Where are the restaurants we're going to eat at? We playing golf. We walking some trails. What are we doing? I know you don't play golf, but
I'll walk some trails with you, man.
Yeah.
You already said beach. I'm already
Right,
picturing white sandy beaches. I'm ready.
Yeah. You want me to tell you about the experience. You want me to give you something to look forward to. Well, even though that sounds weird in that illustration, I want to suggest to you it's exactly what we do. It's the biggest mistake that we make as leaders is that we lead with vehicle. Here's what that sounds like. It sounds like me going to someone saying, hey, you want to join my Bible study? Or come be a part of my small group? Or, hey, we're having a missional community that we want you to be a part of.
No one wants to join your Bible study.
Yeah. No one wants to join your Bible study. No one wants to be part of your missional community, because what they hear is you answering the question of where we're going with Toyota.
Right.
And quite frankly, this is what I call the most competitive 2 minutes in evangelicalism, which is the announcements on Sunday morning. It's what it sounds like so often. Toyota, Toyota, Toyota. And people in the audience are sitting there saying, well, I already have a Lexus. And people where you live, work, and play are already saying, I already got a BMW. Why in the world would I want to get in your Toyota? Now, if you look at the leadership star here, you'll see that vehicle is number 5. It's an important piece. At some point, Shane is going to want to know how we're going to get to the beach.
Absolutely.
But it's not what we lead with. It's not what we lead with. We lead with vision, which is this picture of the future that we're calling people into, that eventually moves them to saying, how are we going to get there? And then you're able to introduce, hey, we're going to get there through a small group or a Bible study or a missional community. So vehicle is important. It's just not what we're going to lead with. We're going to lead with this idea of vision. Jesus never asked anyone to join his Bible study. He never asked anyone to be part of his missional community. But he did make a compelling call to those that he would disciple, to those that he would lead. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how we can become a leader that has a vision for the future and how we begin to lead with that.
Yeah, Dave, where's one of the places that, there's probably multiple places we could go to in Jesus in this. Where's one of your favorite places to go to see how Jesus really demonstrates that?
Yeah. In Luke chapter 5, Jesus is initiating the call to discipleship with his disciples. He's had interaction with them in the past, we know. But here in Luke chapter 5, he enters into their world. They're fishermen, and they go out all night and they don't catch anything, which is exactly not what you want to do if you're a fisherman, right?
That's how I fish. That's what I think fishing is.
They're just getting back in from the night. They're probably pretty depressed about that. And Jesus says, let's take the boat out again. Jesus takes them fishing. It's the wrong part of the day, and he goes to the wrong part of the pond. So they're probably sitting there saying, what in the world are you doing? But he tells them to let the nets down, and they say, well, because you said so, we will. We don't think it's a good idea, but because you said so, and they catch more fish than they've ever caught in their entire life. And all of a sudden, Peter recognizes something in Jesus, and he says, get away from me, Lord, because I'm a sinful man. And it's here in verse 10, it says, then Jesus said to Simon, don't be afraid. From now on, you will catch men. So they pulled their boats up on shore, left everything, and followed him. So I love this move for Jesus, because here's what Jesus does. He enters into his would-be disciples' world. He demonstrates value in their world. And then he creates a contextualized call to discipleship based on the value that he's demonstrated. Man, I wish someone would have told me this early in my ministry, because I was just asking everyone to join my Bible study or join my missional community or come to, the thing that we're running. But I never realized the power of demonstrating value and then contextualizing a call to discipleship based on the value. Now, this is an important piece, because I want to tell you the reason most people don't make disciples is because they don't really believe that they have anything of value to offer. But what I want to tell you today is you do have a place of value. You might be a banker, and man, you know how to work the numbers really well. And it's in that world, you don't have to come to another world. Stay in that world. Stay in that world and demonstrate value. And then based off of that and the value that you're demonstrating, create a call to discipleship that isn't what people would normally think of as a call to discipleship. I mean, one of my biggest issues, Shane, with leading early on was I didn't think anyone really wanted me to disciple them. I didn't think they were asking for it.
Sure.
But when I started to open my ears from this kind of conversation, I realized all kinds of people were asking me to lead them. All kinds of people were asking me to disciple them. They just weren't asking me to lead them or disciple them. They were saying, hey, I see what you're doing here with your marriage, and we want to know how to do that. Or I see the way that you preach, and we want to know how to do that. They were responding to the value that I was demonstrating. I just didn't know how to hear that as really an ask for the discipleship. And I didn't know how to invite them into a disciple-making relationship based on that value that I was demonstrating.
Yeah. So, take that. I love what you're naming there. One of the things that Jesus is doing is he's contextualizing a call to who he's talking to. And part of what you're challenging us to think about is there's this need to recognize who is it that we're engaging, but how do we in essence cast a vision to them of, as you said earlier, that better future. And so maybe to make that practical and things like, what would that actually look like? If we could think of like a basketball coach, for instance, like how do they demonstrate value by they've been doing that day in and day out as they've been coaching, right? Helping players play, offense and defense and really get better at their skill of being a basketball player. But how would, that man or woman, at coach, what would their call to discipleship be? They're not going to just simply say necessarily to those, to those players, join my D group. And things, and maybe one or two because they want to get more time with Coach Lisa or whatever it might be, might join that. But imagine, and what you're saying is a contextualized call could be something more like, hey guys, for the last few months I've been showing you how to play offense and defense on the basketball court, but now I want to show you how to play offense and defense in life. And it really become an invitation into something that's beyond just this basketball, but actually in something that they can relate to and want for their own lives and what that might be.
Yeah. I mean, that's just what Jesus does, right? He tells them, I've helped you catch fish. Now I'm going to help you catch men. And it's so compelling. They leave their nets on the shore.
Yeah, they drop them.
They go and follow Jesus.
Yeah.
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 So let's think about this. We want to help you with this today. And again, we're trying to turn these into training sessions, not just teaching sessions. So we want to help you think about that. To do that, we're gonna play with what we call the Hemingway Challenge. Here's the story that this is kind of based off. There's a legend that basically says Ernest Hemingway, the great American writer, was walking down the street one day when a woman came up to him and asked him, could he write a compelling story in just 6 words?
Right.
Hemingway took the challenge, went, and a little bit later emerged with this 6-word story. Here's the 6-word story. For sale, baby's shoes never worn. With those 6 words, Hemingway stirred our emotions and stoked our imaginations to think about what could be harnessed in just 6 words. There's a whole story in those 6 words. It's incredibly moving. If you think about it, man, it just gets more and more meaningful. Well, we're not asking you to write a complete story in 6 words, but we want to have a little fun with this and think through, if you were to cast a vision for discipleship in 6 words, what would those 6 words be? What would those 6 words be? So let's go back to Jesus for a moment, and let's think about Jesus's 6 words. So Jesus is here with his disciples. He's just demonstrated value in catching fish. And here's Jesus's 6-word call to discipleship. I'll make you fishers of men. 6 words. Boom. They leave their nets and they follow him. For me, when I think about that in my own personal call to discipleship, oftentimes it'll be something like this. I'll help you maximize your life, or I'll help you discover God's dream. The way you want to start this is you want to think about, what is it of value that you have to offer? What are those things that people look at in you and they're saying, man, I want to learn how to do that? And then you want to say, okay, in light of those things, and I would just encourage you now on the video, and as you work through this exercise, just write down a list of things that you have of value to offer. And, if you get stumped on some things, ask your spouse or ask your friends, invite them into the conversation to say, when you look at me and you think about the value that I bring to the table, what are those things that you think about? And then based off of that value, I just want to encourage you, write 2 or 3 6-word invitations that you would say, man, I think if I ask people this, if I casted vision for this, this might be something that they'll respond to. We've heard all kinds of examples of this. Like, I'll help you hear God's voice.
Right. I'll help you impact generations. Right.
I'll help you reconstruct your faith.
Right. I'll help you build a marriage that lasts longer than a lifetime. Yeah.
We're playing with 6 words here, and at the end of the day, we don't care how many words it is. We're just going to fight for the language. So the 6-word challenge is to fight for the language. But the idea is to say, okay, once I understand the value and I understand what I have to offer, and I've harnessed that in as short a way as I possibly can, what would it look like now for me to start leading with vision? This picture of where we are taking people.
Yeah, that's the big challenge of this session. Lead with vision. Take the time, write your 6 to whatever word it might be, and really practice it. Again, everything we're trying to do here is we want to start practicing it, and so we're going to start putting these together. In this session, we were focused on vision. And that's really going to set us up for our next session, which is focused on voice. Because if this session is about vision and being able to cast a compelling sense of a better future, next session is really about the who. Who are the people that God's placed in your relational sphere of influence? Who are the people that are responding to your voice?
Okay. And this session and the next session, Shane, kind of go together.
Yeah,
even though we've labeled them 1 and 2, they're really one move, because now in session 1, you're thinking about vision. You're thinking about different ways that you cast that vision. Well, in session 2, we're going to take a look at, all right, who's already starting to respond to my life? And of those places of value and those different kinds of ways that I could cast a vision. We're going to put those two things together to say, all right, what's the right one to cast to the people who are moving toward me? So in our next session, session 4, we're going to look at voice. We're going to help you, really identify your leadership voice in the people who are responding to that. We've got a great tool and great exercise for that. But through these 2 sessions, we're really contextualizing the call to discipleship and really our invitation for what it is that we're going to lead in a way that people can follow. And it's not just they have to follow, they want to follow. They're following in a way that they're leaving other things behind in order to journey after us. So we look forward to joining you in session 4. In our next video, we're going to talk about your leadership voice.